Hello friends, Cowboy Jobu here at the Jobu Sports Report, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. Well, today, we're going to check in on First Take. Unfortunately, we're dealing with the whole fallout from the Zeke Elliott boobgate. And we're talking about, is there a double standard? Because it seems like when something happens with Gronkowski, he's just a big frat boy, party guy, you know. Zeke Elliott, well, he's a sexual predator. So today on First Take, they're talking about that. And Molly Curran seems to have a different take than Stephen A. Smith. Let's check it out.
A bit of a pass here on his behavior, being dismissed as Gronk being Gronk, but he might be facing a little off-season scrutiny of his own. So after a TMZ video resurfaced of Gronkowski with great vigor burying his head in the cleavage of a woman back in a bar in Charleston in 2015. Now, this begs the comparison to the TMZ video that surfaced over the weekend of Zeke Elliott pulling down a women's shirt at a St. Patrick's Day parade and exposing her bare breast. However, Elliott received a different reaction, facing a lot of criticism. Now, the difference is Elliott walked into the league with a domestic violence allegation against him, and the league continues to investigate that situation. Stephen A., does Gronk deserve the same backlash as Zeke?
No, he does not. And it's a large part due to what you included in your question. Clearly, with what Gronk was doing, it was consensual. In the case of Ezekiel Elliott, the woman sat up there, slapped his hand away, and immediately pulled up her shirt because she didn't want her cleavage to be shown. Now, just because she didn't press charges or anything like that, and they hung out afterwards, and she didn't have a big problem with it per se in terms of hanging out with him thereafter, she clearly didn't want Ezekiel Elliott to do what he was doing. In the case of Gronk, that was entirely consensual, as everybody could see on the video. The woman is holding a bottle in her right hand. She is sitting there dancing on the dance floor and essentially allowing him to do just that with absolutely no problem whatsoever. We might believe it's in bad taste. We might not want to see that on video because, as some folks would say, the kids are watching and things of that nature. But in the end, what was transpiring between Rob Gronkowski and the woman in question is consensuality. It was clearly consensual. In the case of Ezekiel Elliott with the woman, regardless of whether or not they were hanging out afterwards or what have you, it clearly wasn't consensual on her part because she did not want him pulling down her shirt so her cleavage could be exposed to the world during a parade. That is the difference. One was consensual, the other was not. In the throes of the actual act itself.
Yeah, it appears that way, although you might argue that listen, Gronk was also not in as public a place. He's in a bar or looked like a club, dimly lit, compared to a public parade and everything, and she put her hand behind his head at a certain point. But you could also argue, and people have, once you're in that position, you do that because it gives the appearance of being consensual, and therefore it's less humiliating. I wouldn't make that argument in this case. It doesn't appear that way to me, but that argument can be made. It's not just consensual in this case, it appears, and not necessarily the case with Zeke. It's also the issue of it being very public to me. But just because there are differences there doesn't mean that this also doesn't play into stereotypes. Mm-hmm. Now, we agree, Stephen A., there is a difference here. It's not a double standard in this case, but it does call to mind a double standard in terms of stereotypes. There is a stereotype of the good-natured party guy, like from Animal House, or more recently Old School, or a movie like that, and it's all in harmless fun, versus the urban, read Black, menacing, criminal undertone of it all, which may be, although I agree the details don't map on here, but is often applied. And therefore, because Gronk fits the first stereotype, and Zeke is kind of, I wouldn't say being pigeonholed into the second stereotype, but it is called to mind, juxtaposed to Gronk, I think that issue is there. Doesn't apply in this case, given the details, but it does call it to mind. The fact about Ezekiel Elliott is his ongoing investigation, and that's the big difference too, right? The biggest difference is Ezekiel Elliott, there's an ongoing investigation into possibly criminal behavior, And there is nothing like that for Gronk. And then what Ezekiel Elliott does publicly calls to mind the ongoing investigation. We can also say that that ongoing investigation has been, what, 7, 8 months now? Shouldn't they have found something by now? Doesn't it seem a bit unfair to Ezekiel Elliott that it's being dragged out in that way?
Well,
and considering the woman, and I came out as you did and as Molly did yesterday saying, look, you're lucky, Ezekiel Elliott's lucky that the woman came out and said, no, it was consensual, because had she not said that, he'd be in real hot water right now. Given the fact that we said that, the fact is she did come out and say that it was consensual after the fact. She did.
The fact of the matter is this, Max. I am a black man who is fully aware of the stereotypes that exist and how African American men can be portrayed. This is not applicable in that situation. We're talking about the comparisons between these two things specifically. Everybody and their grandmother knows that, stereotypes as it pertains to black men have existed for decades, if not centuries. We get that. I appreciate you articulating that point. Nobody's debating that. As it pertains to specifically juxtaposing the Gronk situation with Ezekiel Elliott situation, even if that were Ezekiel Elliott in Gronk's position, the way that woman was interacting with Rob Gronkowski, had that been Ezekiel Elliott or any other black athlete, we would deem it the same compared to what Ezekiel Elliott was caught doing during the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Let me ask you this, though, Stephen A.
That is a fact because the video is there to see it. You can see consensual. You can see consent with Gronk. There was nothing going on there. Whereas with the woman with Ezekiel Elliott, she slapped his hand away because clearly she did not want her cleavage exposed to the masses.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Agreed. But let's say that was Ezekiel Elliott doing exactly what Gronk did after, but all the other facts were true. In other words, there was an ongoing investigation of Ezekiel Elliott. There were things like he's going to a legal weed distributor and posing outside for a picture. Like, all those things happened, and then we saw the video of him behaving exactly as Gronk just did. We may have a different reaction than we did to Gronkowski. In other words, it's not just those isolated incidents, it's what came before.
But that's because Gronk doesn't have legal action against him.
Is it also, I agree with that, and that's a point I made.
And it's not about black and white. It's about, if it was, I'd be the first to say it.
I gotta ask one thing. What if that video, and this is probably a bad example because he's married. I can't even think of somebody. What if that was LeBron James, Stephen A.? Okay, what if it was LeBron James and we saw that video before he's married, he's doing whatever, that action with the girl in the club. Don't you think he would have received more backlash than Gronk?
Well, listen, what I'm saying to you, first of all, I'm totally uncomfortable answering that question because LeBron is married, and I think it's incredibly unfair to put his name.
I'm trying to think of an African-American athlete that's a superstar that's not married. I don't know people's marital status, because I do believe that if they were African-American and that video surfaced in a club, it wouldn't just be, oh, it's LeBron being LeBron.
No, it wouldn't be LeBron being LeBron, but we would be debating taste. What we wouldn't be debating is the significance of the incident in question. With Gronkowski, again, the fact that the woman is completely consulting and they're having a blast and she's got her hand wrapped around his head, pushing him into her cleavage and welcoming what he's doing. It's two consenting adults that are acting the way that they're acting publicly. So we would be debating whether or not it was tasteful. But that's as far as it would go.
Stephen A., you and I agree on the details of this. The reason I brought it up is because it must be on people's minds, if it's on mine, why are we asking about the double standard in the first place, given the differences in the set of facts? We're asking because it does play into stereotype. On the one hand, good-natured party guy, tends to be white somehow, at least as depicted in popular culture, versus more menacing.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question. I get this. I get it. I'm the black man on the show. Trust me. I am fully aware of the stereotypes, ladies and gentlemen. I get that. But it's a simple question that I would ask. Is there any incident in question in the career of Rob Gronkowski where he was being investigated by police or the NFL because of illegal transgressions, meaning assault or anything of that nature? Has Rob Gronkowski ever been associated with that, yes or no?
No.
Then there's nothing to talk about.
Then
there's nothing to talk about.
Well, I'll say one more thing.
There's no comparison. There's no comparison.
about it anyway. And along those lines, I would say there are also, even if you took away the investigation from Ezekiel Elliott, there are also those in the sporting world, and by the way, those in various walks of life, we know them, who get away with similar behavior as others, and yet they are considered charming when they do it, and when someone else does it, they're considered hostile somehow. So
Sure.
example,
The angry black man compared to the passionate white guy
sure.
or something. You're right.
But
You're
even
right
when we
about
take
that.
race out of it, even take race out of it,
Well, I'm
Popovich
just
is
saying-
charming, Belichick's a jerk.
Yeah.
Why?
All
I don't
right,
know.
forget
Just the way
that.
they came off.
But let's go to this route. Ray Rice, Greg Hardy,
Right.
Josh Brown for the New York Giants. See the difference? You throw a comparison out like that, it makes sense. I'm saying in this case, it has no relevance whatsoever. You have Ezekiel Elliott, who has a track record, whether it's his fault or not, you know, in terms of what he's been, the allegations that have been levied against him leading into that incident, caught on video, where we clearly see a woman not consulting to what he's doing. And we're comparing that to a Rob Gronkowski, who hasn't been in trouble with the law, who hasn't done anything wrong. Even on the video, clearly the woman is consulting,
Yep.
is
Consenting, yep.
consulting along with it. I mean, it's two consenting adults,
what I'm
rather.
saying is even-
that's what we have.
Sure,
It doesn't compare.
Let's take race out of it entirely. Even my point is, in addition to what we just in addition to what we just discussed, there are some people. Marshawn Lynch can get away with treating the media a certain way, and it comes off, to me at least, and to others, as charming. There's something about the way he does it that's charming. I'd like to see another player, black or white, try to do what Marshawn Lynch did. Most of them, if they behaved in exactly that way toward the media, would be criticized for it because they wouldn't likely be as charming. So there's part of that too. There's
I
something
guess what
about
I'm trying-
Gronk that endears him, that endears people to him.
Well, you could say it endears him again, but again, if to me the case would be stronger if the same exact incident happened with Gronk that happened with Ezekiel Elliott. What we're doing by having this discussion is giving the impression that they're comparable, and it's important to acknowledge there is no comparison. Gronkowski and a consenting adult were doing what they were doing. The woman with the video with Ezekiel Elliott clearly was not consenting.
Though
Consent
after the
on
fact,
one
she
hand,
came out and said
not
she did.
consent on another.
That we don't
period.
know for sure whether she
How
was
we don't
consenting
know
or
that?
not. Because Stephen A. in
How we don't know
the
that?
first part of the video, she's gesturing to her chest, she's pointing to him, right? And that could potentially
gotta be kidding me, Molly.
Let me finish, Stephen A. She's pointing to her chest and she's pointing to him. So we don't know for a fact, and I'm leaning towards your side, but I'm just saying I have to play devil's advocate. We don't know for a fact if people are yelling to flash themselves. These things happen, whether it's parties, Vegas, whatever it is. So he's doing that. Do I like a man that would ever pull down a woman's chest or a shirt in the public, regardless of whether she's asking for it or not? And I'm not saying that she is, but we don't know that. I get that in the second time around, whenever it happens again, then she pushes him away. But then they're coming out after the fact and saying it's all in good fun. We continued to hang out after. So no,
Molly?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Allow me to interject.
Go for
I
it.
really want to apologize beforehand before I say this.
Okay.
But I'm incredibly shocked at your take. And I'm going
It's
to
not
tell
a
you why.
take. It's devil's advocate because you don't know for a fact that it was not consensual. You do not know that.
Do you? I'll let you finish. Do you want me to finish?
I would.
Because I have
I
a
do.
point that I want to make to you.
I would love it.
You are the same. You are the same woman,
Yes.
lady, whichever is appropriate. Because we got our editor Chuck Solitero listening. I don't know if lady or woman is the
Either's
appropriate
fine.
word
Go
to
for it.
use.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We have the same woman, Molly Kiram,
Yep.
who has been on the record stating, "quote, I wish that when these allegations come out in an uproar for something comes to light, that we didn't require a video in order to make a judgment call based on what we've read or what have you."
Very true. For domestic violence, very true.
Hold
Yep.
on. In this case, we have video
Yes.
where it shows clearly that the woman slapped his hand away, did not want that happening, but because we heard from his lawyer that eventually they went out together and everything was fine, that made
Okay.
his act okay. Which one is it, Molly?
Okay,
Which one is it?
let's just go there here with this situation, okay? Let's pretend it's
Sure.
the two of us. So the two of us, we're at
Sure.
we're at the St. Patrick's Day parade. Molly Karam, Stephen A. Smith, and Max Kellerman. We're all there.
Two of you. Leave me out of
All right. We're all there, right? We're all there. We're all
Yes,
hanging
go
out.
ahead.
Me and you, Stephen
Let's
A.
leave the
We're on-
married
we're on
Max
the-
Kellerman out of this
we're on
conversation.
the
I got
stage,
you, I got
okay?
your back, Max. Okay, go ahead.
We're on the stage, and I'm flashing, flashing towards my chest, telling you to pull my shirt down. People are yelling for it, whatever. You do it once, okay? Let's pretend you do that once. I let it go. You do it again. I'm not good with it. I'm just telling you that I am not then going to leave with you and continue to hang out with you. That's not cool with me. That's not okay. So as far as maybe the lawyer's lying and maybe the female, maybe that situation isn't true, but why are you continuing to hang out with him? Then was it okay with you? That's what I'm asking.
Well, your eyes
if somebody
and
assaults
mine,
you, I'm not going to keep hanging out
I'm
with them.
trying to answer the question. Your eyes and mine saw two different things.
Okay.
I did not see a young woman inviting him to pull down her shirt.
Okay.
I saw that when he did it, she immediately slapped his hand away. That's what I saw.
One thing about
and I'm
that.
from the world. And hold on. I'm from the world where no means no. You even imply a no. You shut it down.
Wait,
you don't sit up there and
Max,
go like this.
before
What
you
she
go.
really means for me to do something.
Stephen
You
A.
don't do something
Stephen A.
like
And
that. That's where I'm
and
from.
I'm not saying that she invited it or she didn't invite it. I'm just saying we only saw a little snippet. We weren't there for the whole situation. So when we say Gronk, it's consensual, she was all about it. We don't know. She might have walked away and been like, I don't want to be there for it. And this.
In that video you just saw with Gronk, that's what you take from that?
No,
So the
wait,
eyes
hold-
don't matter? We saw it on video, it doesn't
Stephen
matter?
A., I'm just saying, we don't know the full situation. I don't know the full situation of what went down
know what
with
I saw.
Ezekiel Elliott. I don't like it. I don't like a man pulling down a woman's shirt. Yes, that is assault, but I'm just saying, I don't know how she truly felt. I would need to hear from
And
the woman.
I want to make a larger point about all
I
this.
have no problem with Gronk. I
Yeah.
have a problem with Ezekiel
For-
Elliott,
for-
what he did.
for young
I have
men
no
watching-
problem with what I saw Gronk do.
For young men watching this right now, a word of caution. Stephen A., what you're basing mostly that take on, and I understand it because I follow the logic, and that is my own actually in this situation, that in Gronk's case, her reaction to it means it likely means it's consensual, and in Ezekiel Elliott's case, it's not as clear. I would just say that before you behave that way, where whether or not it's a criminal act depends on her reaction, maybe you don't do it in the first place. Maybe it's best not to do either what Gronk, because if you're talking about consent based on the way the woman reacted to what Gronk did, I understand there's an atmosphere and environment stuff leading up to that.
Yeah.
If that's what gets
You know
you
what
off
makes
the
me
hook,
uncomfortable?
then that's not
You know
such
what
a great
makes-
idea.
You know what makes me uncomfortable
What?
with this conversation?
Yeah.
The fact that y'all are veering into another dimension. The fact of the matter is this conversation strictly is supposed to be about juxtaposing what we saw in the Gronk video to what we saw in the Ezekiel Elliott video. The fact that y'all are veering where y'all are veering, there's a whole bunch of debates and subject matters that we could touch on. I'm not going there. I got sisters, I got daughters, I got 9 nieces and nephews. Trust you me, I'm telling you right now, there are things that make me uncomfortable. I'm not condoning either of them acting that way in public. What I am simply saying is what my eyes saw was consent on one part and highly debatable whether or not it was consent on the other part. And that is the important point to make.
The question is,
more so than anything
the question
else.
that was asked was, does Gronk deserve the same backlash as Zeke?
Yeah.
Stephen A., you say no. I say no. But and
regardless of the situation, Zeke shouldn't be doing that, and you shouldn't be pulling down women's shirts. Period. All right, we're gonna leave that one there.